Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and you are very welcome to today's orchid video. Today we're going to leave the winter behind and travel to a little island off of Africa, part of the Canary Islands, where I'm going to show you some amazing orchids grown outdoors. We're going to talk about how to grow orchids outdoors when the temperature is appropriate, but the rainfall is just too excessive. And I'm going to look at some examples in places I've been, such as Tenerife Island and also Madeira Island. We're going to see some amazing phalaenopsis, dendrobiums, cymbidiums, and my favourite cattleyas, like these ones here behind, grown in an outdoor setting. And well, what are we waiting for? Let's get on with the video. The first place we're visiting today is a zoo or family amusement park on the island of Tenerife. It's called Lauro Park, and it's not famous for its orchids, but for its parrots. Maybe I'll give you a little shot of the real soundtrack to this video. But that's enough of that. We've come to look at how they grow their orchids. This is the orchid tunnel, and you can see how a path leads through an area of raised beds. Photographers show a lot of interest in this area. They always relish the detail of orchid flowers. All of the orchids here are in pots, and they're hung or placed in raised areas decorated with branches and ferns. The areas on either side of the path are raised to bring the intricate blooms to eye level. So, why are these orchids grown in pots? Many phals, dendrobiums and cattleyas are epiphytic, so they couldn't be placed in the ground. Sometimes you do see them attached to tree branches with string and sphagnum moss, emulating their epiphytic nature. Here, however, they're all in pots. Possibly all the orchids on display here are hybrids. There are some nice phals and a selection of big flowered cattleyas in bloom. Unfortunately, there are no labels on the plants, so I can't give you any IDs. I think this is a display area because all of the plants here are in flower. They must have a grow area somewhere else out of the public gaze where they bring plants into bloom and then transfer them out here. This probably explains why all the plants are in pots, making it easy to remove a plant when it finishes flowering and substitute one in bloom. There are some nice dendrobium phalaenopsis on display too. And I really love how the den phals in particular are displayed in sacking. When orchids were originally transported back to Europe from the tropics, they would have been in sacking. So displaying them now in sacking mimics a piece of history. The sacking covers plastic pots, and the illusion is more complete in some cases than in others. We also have oncidiums on display. There are some very popular hybrids on display here, including the iconic yellow dancing ladies. Cymbidiums are also in bloom. Interestingly, although I've seen a lot of cymbidiums grown here and in Madeira, they too are always in pots and never planted in the ground. You might think it could be otherwise for terrestrial orchids like cymbidiums. I think the combination of ferns and larger leafy plants works really well with these orchids, providing a green backdrop. Before we leave the orchid display at Lauro Park, let's take a look upwards. These plants are in a covered area where rain doesn't fall on them. The torrential rain that Tenerife Island has in winter would wreak havoc with these perfectly orchestrated displays, and in a second we'll take a look at what happens when orchids aren't completely covered like this. It is such a shame, however, that the roof area isn't utilised properly. When I visited here previously, there had been an impressive Nepenthes display above, but now it's all gone. Let's now take a quick look at another place, a garden called the Orchid Garden, also in Tenerife. And we're visiting in the middle of a rainstorm. Don't worry, we'll return to take a more in-depth look at this beautiful garden another time, but for the moment I just want to illustrate what happens when orchids aren't fully enclosed. This garden has a similar setup to Lauro Park, with a paved area flanked by raised beds containing branches, ferns and other leafy plants, and orchids in pots. There's some kind of makeshift roof above, not completely waterproof as you can see. While I was visiting, a section of the roof fell in, which sounds more alarming than it actually was, but didn't do the plants any favours, I'm sure. Many orchids can tolerate heavy bursts of rain, providing the temperatures are warm and the rain not too persistent. It is harder to manage though when all are grown together in this sort of display, with different plants that have different requirements side by side. I want to show you two more examples of orchids being grown in similar setups, and for this we need to travel to Madeira Island. In this example we have orchids which are grown outdoors in pots with a heavy shade cloth above. This type of growing is called an Estufa Fria, which translates as cold greenhouse. You may recall the video I made some time ago when I visited the famous and magnificent Estufa Fria in Lisbon, Portugal. With this growing method, plants are grown outdoors in an unheated space, but shaded from the worst of the sun's rays by shade cloth, which allows rain through. The method may also rely on increasing humidity. Here, this Madeiran Estufa Fria is used to grow orchids, but it could similarly be used for other plants as they do in Lisbon. The most important factor for this kind of greenhouse is that you have to have a climate with temperatures that suit the plants you're growing. And finally, I want to finish this video by showing you what wonderful beauty can be created by growing orchids in this kind of unheated but shaded and sheltered environment. I can think of no better example than the beautiful Pregetter's Orchid Garden in Madeira. These images are from 2016, before a catastrophic fire reduced all this beauty to rubble. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and found it interesting. Thank you as always for watching and following my channel, and I wish you a great day full of orchid dreams. Bye!